As the cabin drain cycle ran, he ran a test, holding his breath. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. No tightness in his chest. No crushing sensation of oxygen deprivation. The sensations in his lungs shifted. Oxygen consumption plummeted, and his body automatically switched into some kind of energy-saving mode. He was not even certain if he needed to breathe at all right now. The cabin door opened. Suhai wore no diving suit, no face mask, and carried no oxygen tank. He only donned regular combat trousers and his thermostatic vest, strapped a pair of flippers to his feet, then stepped straight into the frigid seawater. Seawater surged into his nasal cavities and flooded his lungs. And then, he breathed. It was not the choking panic of drowning. It was genuine, unobstructed respiration, just as easy as breathing air. Seawater flowed down his throat, and a new physiological structure unfurled beneath it, gills. Not the external gills of fish, but fine hidden gill slits lining the inner throat. They drew oxygen directly from seawater and delivered it into his bloodstream, while expelling waste water through the sides of his neck. He glanced down at his neck. 2 rows of minuscule slits ran along either side. They stayed sealed normally, only parting slightly when he breathed underwater, barely visible to the eye. Then he felt the effect of doubled attributes. From the moment he exited the cabin and his body was fully submerged, explosive power washed over him. It was no hallucination. The enhancement was tangible. He clenched his fist underwater. His fingers tightened faster than they could above the surface, and the resistance of the water felt almost negligible. He kicked his flippers once casually. His body shot forward more than a dozen meters like an arrow loosed from a bow, far quicker than he had ever moved in his old diving suit. He halted, suspended amid the seawater, and closed his eyes. The current sense of the tidebreaker unfolded at that instant. Currents within a 1-kilometer radius spread across his mind like a holographic map, then sharp perception layered over top of it. He could sense not only shifts in the currents, but the presence of living things. 30 meters away, buried beneath seafloor sand, a shelled crustacean huddled and hiding. Its faint electric field lit up as a pale blue pinpoint in his awareness. 70 meters out, tucked within a reef crevice, a small lanternfish rested. Its electrical signal flickered like a beating heart. 500 meters distant, several sea urchins clung to a cliff face. With the 2 perception networks stacked, resolution, range, and information volume all doubled. Suhai opened his eyes beneath the waves. A faint fluorescence glimmered from the golden ring edging his dark red pupils. He turned and swam back to the submarine, sealed the hatch, initiated drainage, then stood on the cockpit floor and shook seawater from his hair. The moment air filled his lungs, the gill slits closed automatically, seamlessly switching his respiration back to air-breathing mode. He opened his personal stat panel. Player. Suhai. Titles. Tidebreaker, Shark Slayer, Stamina. 34 underwater. 68, Strength. 28 underwater. 56, Agility. 31 underwater. 62, Spirit. 30 underwater. 60, Abilities. Current sense, Shark Heart. Evaluation. You are no longer a pure human. Deep-sea sharks will recognize you as one of their own, while humans will see you as a monster. You exist between 2 species. To be honest, in this world, that may not be a disadvantage. Suhai stared at the doubled values on the panel for a long while. He felt no fear, only awe. When he had just graduated university, he would gasp for breath halfway through a 1-kilometer fitness run. Now he could tear apart sharks with his bare hands beneath the waves. No tearing would even be required. With his underwater strength raised to 56 points, it surpassed the bite force statistics of most adult sharks. He closed the panel, walked over to the pilot's seat and sat down, drank a glass of water, then pulled up the map panel. During his nearly 6 hours of unconsciousness, the boundary of the contaminated zone had advanced substantially. Only roughly 8 hours of safety remained before it reached his current anchorage. It was not an immediate crisis, but he could not afford further delays. He started the engines, guided the submarine out of the cliffside cavern, adjusted course to sail away from the contaminated zone, and set a steady cruising speed of 50 knots. Switching piloting mode to semi-automatic cruise, he opened the world channel to catch up on events that had unfolded during his downtime. Messages scrolled rapidly as always, yet the tone differed sharply from his previous visits. Once, the channel had been flooded with cries for help and despair, starvation, thirst, oxygen shortages, pursuits by marine predators, hull breaches. Today, a new sentiment dominated: rage. The Wolf Alliance took out another squad. Coordinates region EC 7745. 3 submarines ambushed, 6 players dead, all supplies looted, and every vessel was blown up. I saw it too. They operate 4 modified military submarines, lying in wait near resource spawn points to strike after players retrieve crates. They don't just steal supplies, they kill without hesitation. They execute anyone who surrenders. A friend of mine was murdered by them. He piloted a beat-up civilian craft and had only just collected 2 crates of food. They forced him to stop using torpedoes before ramming and splitting his hull open. He floated in the water in his diving suit begging for mercy, yet they riddled him with assault rifle rounds. This group has lost all reason. They believe this game follows the law of the jungle, that the strong have every right to consume the weak. Their Wolf Alliance's motto is survival of the fittest. Anyone willing to team up and fight back? I've contacted squad captains to organize a joint force. We plan to establish a defensive front on the outskirts of EC 7745. The Wolf Alliance only controls around a dozen submarines. United, we outnumber them. Count me in. I'm near EC 7745 with a modified medium submarine fitted with 3 torpedo tubes. I'm joining too. My sub's battered, but I have an underwater sniper rifle. Suhai read post after post, his expression gradually shifting from relaxed to solemn. The Wolf Alliance. They were not merely scavenging for resources. They systematically and deliberately hunted other players as an end in itself, not just a means. Ambushes, torpedo interdiction, hull ramming, shooting down divers pleading for mercy. Every account reeked of blood, even through the screen. The channel seethed with anger. Some called for allied counterattacks, others shared coordinates to join the coalition, many cursed the Wolf Alliance. Yet a majority stayed silent, too afraid to fight, too wary to speak out, praying they would not become the next target. Suhai watched for a long time without posting a single message. He minimized the world channel, leaned back in the pilot's chair, and closed his eyes to massage his temples. It was not apathy. He understood his own condition clearly. Consecutive grueling battles, 6 hours of unconsciousness after injecting shark heart, and a transformation reshaping him at the genetic level. His boosted stats sustained his mental faculties, yet deep exhaustion lingered beneath the surface. He needed rest. True, high-quality rest. Suhai stood and walked toward the galley. He would not skimp on food today. From storage lockers, he retrieved frozen steak, iron crab legs, swordfish fillets, fawn-scale silverfish, plus a pack of deep-sea snow crab claws he had purchased expensively via the trade channel. The seller claimed they were caught near hydrothermal vents, sweeter in flavor than king crab from land. He set a frying pan on the electromagnetic burner and poured in oil. Once heated, he laid the whole steak down. High heat locked in juices, searing its surface to an appetizing brown. He flipped it, seasoned with sea salt, black pepper, and a touch of rosemary. He set the finished steak aside to rest, rich juices welling out when touched by a blade, and aroma filling the entire command cabin. Without cleaning the pan, he cooked crab legs next. The shells cracked with fine lines under heat, plump white meat bulging from openings, turning golden and fragrant. He sliced swordfish fillets thickly, coated them lightly with starch, and pan-fried until crisp outside and tender within. He cut fawn-scale silverfish into strips, marinated them in chili powder and cumin for 10 minutes, then stir-fried them. The spicy, savory scent made Suhai sneeze. It was still not enough. He dug out a pack of spicy beef tallow hot pot base from the bottom storage compartment, one he had been reluctant to use. He placed a stock pot on the induction cooker, added the base and water, and brought it to a rolling boil. Red oil churned in the broth. Chili, Sichuan peppercorn, and beef tallow aromas blended, turning the cockpit into an underwater private dining room. Ingredients lined the counter: thinly sliced fish, fatty luncheon meat, rehydrated dried shiitake, freshly picked lettuce and bok choy, soft tofu, kelp knots, plus a bundle of handmade deep-sea vermicelli crafted from seaweed extract by another player, traded to him for 3 crates of mineral water. He prepared dipping sauces carefully: minced garlic, sesame oil, vinegar, light soy sauce, chili paste, and sesame paste, mixing 2 bowls, one spicy, one mild, and set them before himself. Suhai sat at the counter facing the spread of food and drew a deep breath. He began eating. With his first chopstick, he dipped a fish slice into the boiling red broth for a dozen seconds. The fish turned snow white, edges curling gently. Dipped in garlic sesame sauce, it melted on his tongue, layered with bold spice. He picked up a slice of luncheon meat, coated it in chili oil, and bit down. The richness and heat swirled in his mouth, and he sighed in satisfaction. As he ate, he opened the trade channel. Chopsticks in his left hand, he scrolled the panel with his right. Weapons. Ammunition. He needed to replenish every stock depleted during the battle at the shipwreck graveyard. The weapons market on the trade channel was far livelier than in previous days. Players had discovered sunken military installations and supply shipwrecks, increasing ammunition supply and driving prices slightly lower. While simmering beef slices, Suhai bulk purchased supplies. 6 standard torpedoes for 300 gold coins, purchased outright. For depth charges, the seller asked for 500 gold coins. He negotiated the price down to 420, and the deal closed. 8 small torpedoes for 200 gold coins. The seller threw in 2 older acoustic decoy torpedoes as a bonus. 2 vertical launch anti-ship missiles. The seller stated they had been recovered from a destroyer wreck, factory fresh, with a firm price of 800 gold coins. Suhai verified their authenticity via the panel and completed the purchase without hesitation. In one go, he spent nearly 2,000 gold coins restocking ammunition. Torpedo and missile counts rose steadily, yet he remained far from his target full loadout. Heavy torpedoes stayed scarce. Powerful ordnance rarely appeared on the market. Those who possessed them clung tightly to their stock, and any listed lots vanished within moments. Suhai thought for a moment, opened private chat, and selected the contact labeled Xiaomei. Her avatar was gray, offline, or set to invisible. Suhai sent a message. Xiaomei, do you have any ammunition left? Heavy torpedoes, missiles, depth charges. I'll take all you have. Same terms as before. Oxygen, mineral water, food, steel, and rubber. Name your price. No immediate reply. Suhai did not rush her and continued enjoying his hot pot. He simmered crab claws for 2 minutes, cracked them open with tongs. Steaming white flesh tasted wonderfully sweet dipped in ginger vinegar. He opened an iced cola, another 2 crates acquired via trade after his previous stock emptied. Fizz burst across his tongue, the perfect pairing for spicy hot pot, an immense luxury in this apocalyptic sea. Mid-meal, a notification chimed from private chat. Xiaomei's avatar lit up. Boss, I was moving cargo and storage and missed your message. I've got plenty. How much do you need? Suhai set down his chopsticks, wiped his hands, and replied, I'll take everything you have. Xiaomei sent a wide-eyed emoji, then typed, deleted and rephrased her message repeatedly before sending a long list. Boss, I don't need oxygen or mineral water this time. I still hold stock from our last trade. I want 300 units of steel, 200 units of rubber, 50 evolution shards. I also need food. Instant noodles, canned goods, pre-cooked rice. Send whatever you can spare. Suhai read the list and quickly tallied the costs mentally. He held large reserves of steel and rubber looted from shark swarms. 50 evolution shards sounded substantial, yet he carried nearly 800 after slaying more than 300 sharks. This amount was trivial. As for food, his storage compartments overflowed with instant noodles, cans and self-heating rice, continuously restocked through trades for mineral water and oxygen. Deal, Suhai replied. 3 minutes later, the transaction finalized. Xiaomei's ammunition transferred to his inventory simultaneously. As the weapons panel refreshed its data, Suhai stood by the counter chewing beef, watching ammunition counts climb. Heavy torpedoes increased from 4 to 46. Sea Spear 3 anti-ship missiles increased from 2 to 32. Depth charges increased from 6 to 31. Anti-submarine rockets, newly added, 16 units. He had already restocked small torpedoes and acoustic decoys earlier. Total ammunition aboard now neared 150 rounds, nearly half more than his stock before the battle at the shipwreck graveyard. Satisfied, Suhai closed the weapons panel. He simmered his final fish slice, coated it thickly in sesame paste, and ate it. The hot pot reached its end. The broth had grown bitter from prolonged boiling, an inevitable trait of beef tallow base. It turned salter and harsher the longer it simmered. Still reluctant to pour it away, he tossed in a handful of vermicelli. The noodles soaked up spicy broth, translucent and glossy, hot and fiery as he slurped them down. After finishing the last bite, he placed bowls in the automatic washer and stood to stretch. His stomach felt full. He patted his abdomen. This was the most satisfying meal he had eaten since entering the deep sea. Once full, powerful drowsiness washed over him. He inspected system status. The nuclear reactor operated normally, life support system stable, automatic trade delivery active, alert systems engaged, sonar sensitivity set to maximum. On the map panel, the contaminated zone boundary crept onward. Approximately 12 hours of safety remained before it reached his current coordinates. It was enough time. Suhai set an alarm for 6 hours later, flattened the pilot chair, retrieved a compressed blanket from storage, and covered himself, closing his eyes. 30 seconds passed, and he fell asleep. 6 hours later, the alarm sounded precisely on schedule. Suhai opened his eyes, pushed aside the blanket, and sat upright. His body felt strange. Though he had slept 6 hours, there was no grogginess or mental fog typical after waking. His mind felt crisp, as if rinsed with cold water. Muscles brimmed with strength, and his senses sharpened to the point where he could distinguish the faint flow of seawater against the submarine hull. The modifications brought by Shark Heart extended beyond underwater performance. Even within the dry cockpit, his physical condition vastly exceeded his state before the injection. His stamina surged, reaction speed improved, and his vision grew clearer. Staring out the viewport into dim seawater, he could discern finer details farther away than before. He stood, stretched his neck, walked to the galley, and poured a cup of warm water. Before he could take a sip, the familiar cold system tone echoed inside his mind. Ding, daily intelligence system. Today's intelligence has refreshed. Time remaining until next refresh. 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 47 seconds. Please select your intelligence category for this draw. A translucent pentagram selection panel unfolded before him. 5 colored cursors rotated slowly, each glowing with distinct light. Holding his water cup, Suhai's gaze swept repeatedly across the 5 options. His eyes settled on hunting intelligence. It would mark traces, locations, weaknesses, threat ratings, and loot previews for all mutated creatures within a 30-kilometer radius. The effect lasted 6 hours. His ammunition stock was abundant. His submarine upgraded to Tier 2 with an indestructible hull. His personal attributes doubled, and sharp perception stacked with current sense. His combat power ceiling had reached the peak achievable at this stage. It was time to take the initiative to hunt. Suhai stretched out a finger and pressed down on the red option labeled Hunt Intel. The other 4 cursor lights faded away at once. The red cursor burst forth with a dark crimson wave of light. Right after that, the tactical sonar screen in front of Suhai lit up automatically. It was no longer the original detection interface, but an entirely different holographic hunting map. Centered around his submarine, the underwater terrain within a 30-kilometer radius was rendered as dark line work on the display. Wreckage fields, reef clusters, underwater cliffs, kelp forests, rift valleys, hydrothermal vents. Every landform was clearly marked. Yet what made Suhai's heart race were the dense biological signatures scattered across the map. He zoomed in on a nearby gathering zone. Hunt Intel immediately pulled up detailed information. Regional coordinates. EC 7782 NW terrain. Underwater rift zone depth 1370 m, 1520 m. Mutated creature horde. Abyssal bone shark tier 1 times 53 elite individuals. 2 tier 2 mutated individuals. 0 threat level. High. Horde weaknesses. Gills physical weak point. Vulnerable to high frequency, sound waves may be temporarily dispersed via sonar pulses. All remaining individuals fall into a state of chaos for 30 seconds once the horde leader is slain. Elimination difficulty, moderate with sufficient firepower loot preview. Evolution shards times 180, 250 gold coins times 800, 1200 steel times 100, 150 rubber times 80, 120 bone shark hide times 8, 15 bone shark vertebra times 5, 10 standard torpedo times 6, 12 compact torpedo times 8, 16 depth charge times 2, 6. Suhai's pupils narrowed slightly. 53 abyssal bone sharks, including 2 elite specimens. No Tier 2 variants. In scale, this group was merely a patrol unit compared to the more than 300 sharks he had encountered at the ship graveyard, though the pair of Tier 2 elites added extra danger. However, his firepower far surpassed what he had back then. 46 heavy torpedoes, 32 missiles, 31 depth charges, 16 anti-submarine rockets. Total ordnance amounted to nearly 150 rounds. Taking on 50-odd sharks would be a fight fought with overwhelming resources. The prospective loot also looked promising. This would serve as good combat practice. Suhai set down his water cup, flexed his fingers, and gripped the control lever tightly. The nuclear power engine rumbled lowly. The Orca-class attack submarine slid out from the cliff cavern, its bow aimed toward the rift zone marked on the hunting map. Time to depart. The submarine cruised forward at 45 knots. Roughly 10 minutes later, scattered signatures of small creatures appeared on the tactical sonar screen, schools of Tier 1 mutated fish wandering across the abyssal plain. Suhai avoided alerting them, slipping past on the flank as he continued toward the rift zone. Another 5 minutes passed, and the outline of the rift zone sharpened on the sonar. It was a massive fissure cutting across the seabed, ranging several hundred meters to multiple kilometers in width and over 200 meters deep. The steep, jagged rock walls lining the rift were blanketed by vast stretches of glowing kelp and tube worm colonies, casting a faint, eerie emerald glow through the darkness. and the signatures of the abyssal bone sharks lay deep within the rift. The real-time tracking function of Hunt Intel sprang into action. All 53 orange signatures were tagged one by one, with each creature's movement path, speed, and current behavioral status updating constantly on the holographic map. The signatures of the two elite specimens burned brighter and larger. One lingered at the entrance of a cavern in the northern section of the rift, while the other patrolled slowly among reef formations in the southern stretch. The remaining 51 ordinary bone sharks were scattered across the rift, roaming in small groups. Some hunted tiny mutated fish, some scraped their bodies against the rock faces, and others hovered in mid-rift currents to rest. Suhai drew a deep breath and rested his thumb on the firing switch. Engage. Less than a quarter of an hour later, the final orange signature vanished from the sonar screen. Abyssal bone shark eliminated. 53 of 53 horde annihilated. Suhai leaned back in the pilot's chair, his expression calm. A large portion of the indicator lights along the ordnance rack had dimmed. Over 50 rounds of ammunition had been expended in this battle, but it had been worthwhile. He opened the loot tally panel, where the system had automatically compiled the total gains from the hunt. Loot summary: evolution shards, 241 gold coins, 1350 steel, 142 units rubber, 105 units bone shark hide, 18 sheets bone shark vertebra, 12 pieces standard torpedo, 18 rounds compact torpedo, 22 rounds depth charge, 8 rounds. He then opened the hatch, donned his diving suit, and headed down into the water personally to collect any leftover loot orbs. The seawater within the rift remained murky, with shark bone fragments and flesh suspended throughout the water column, limiting visibility to less than 5 meters. But Suhai possessed the combined senses of current perception and shark instinct. The location of every loot orb within a 1-kilometer radius lit clearly in his mind, like streetlights in the dark. He spent nearly 20 minutes gathering every orb scattered through the rift. The numbers on his system panel climbed once more. His stock of evolution shards neared 260. Gold coins broke past 2,500, and his reserves of steel and rubber returned to comfortable levels. Just as he picked up the last orb and prepared to swim back to the submarine, at the edge of his current perception, an enormous biological signature abruptly surfaced. It was no school of Tier 1 fish. No ordinary Tier 1 bone shark. This signature was vastly larger than an abyssal bone shark, moving far quicker. What's more, its electric field signature blazed like a searchlight within shark instinct. Suhai's pupils constricted. He spun around and swam at maximum speed toward the submarine. Boosted by the shark heart trait, he surged through the hatch within seconds. He slammed the drainage valve shut, rushed into the cockpit, and settled into the pilot's seat. The image displayed on the tactical sonar drew a sharp gasp from him. Deep within the rift, a creature nearly 12 meters in length rose slowly. Its shape resembled an abyssal bone shark, yet dwarfed them by several magnitudes. Its skin was not teal black, but an inky shade of deep violet, covered in bony plate armor. Faint dark crimson light seeped out through gaps between the plates. Each spine running along its back measured over 3 meters long. Rather than standing upright, they folded against its body like switchblades, now unfolding one after another. Its eyes were not dull crimson. They burned blood red, 2 glowing scarlet searchlights piercing the darkness. Hunt Intel automatically pulled up the creature's information panel, marked in glaring red text. Mutated creature. Abyssal bone shark lord threat level. Tier 2 mutated creature behavior. The ruler of abyssal bone shark hordes. Normally dormant within a lair in the deepest reaches of the rift, it awakens only when the scent of massive numbers of slain kin fills the water. Extremely territorial. Once a target is locked on, it can pursue prey for dozens of kilometers. Carapace durability. Extremely high direct hits from standard torpedoes only inflict minor abrasions. The spinal armor can deflect small and medium-sized torpedoes. Speed. Extremely high sprint speed exceeds 80 knots, far outpacing most submarines. Attacks. Volley spine barrage launches 12 3-meter spines simultaneously, penetration power comparable to military anti-submarine missiles. Tail slam massive bony tail club capable of crushing the hull of a medium submarine. Bite teeth 3 times harder than ordinary abyssal bone sharks, able to pierce standard military armor plating. Weaknesses. 1. Gill's physical vulnerability. Thinner armor plating can only be struck effectively with fire coming upward from below. 2. Eyes unprotected by armor, yet an extremely small target. The bone shark lord will instinctively guard its head. 3. Armor gaps when spines extend. Once spines fully unfurl, 0.3 to 0.5 centimeter gaps open between armor plates. High explosive armor-piercing warheads striking these gaps can penetrate into internal organs. Elimination difficulty. Extremely high combat recommendation. Direct confrontation is not advised. If battle is unavoidable, all of the following conditions must be met. Deploy sonar decoys to divert its attention. Strike the gills or exposed armor gaps from below as its spines extend. Utilize armor-piercing torpedoes or anti-submarine rockets. Ordinary torpedoes will prove ineffective. Loot preview. Evolution shards times 150. 300 gold coins times 800. 1500 abyssal bone shark lord hide times 1 abyssal bone shark lord vertebra times 1 bone shark lord spine times 6. 12 submarine tier 2 evolution blueprint times 1 submarine tier 2 evolution blueprint. Suhai stared at that line of text, his gaze shifting. Hesitation melted into calm, and calm hardened into resolve. He had to fight this beast. But how? The guidance from Hunt Intel was clear. Use sonar decoys to distract it, strike the gills or armor gaps from underneath, and rely exclusively on armor-piercing ordnance. He still held 4 anti-submarine rockets, the shipment obtained from Xiaomei, boasting twice the explosive power of standard depth charges, explicitly labeled as armor-piercing. He also had 6 compact torpedoes. While lacking sufficient destructive force, they could serve as distractions. Additionally, he had spotted something along the rift floor. Beside the remains of the bone sharks he had destroyed earlier lay several intact torpedoes, not wreckage. No, they were not debris. Several torpedoes he had fired earlier had ricocheted off rock formations without detonating, diverted by blast shockwaves and wedged into fissures. Suhai pulled up the tactical sonar and completed his final ammunition inventory. For armor-piercing anti-submarine rockets, 6 compact torpedoes, 18 standard torpedoes recovered from loot, 8 depth charges. It was enough to wage this fight. Yet the Bone Shark Lord could reach 80 knots in a sprint, 15 knots faster than his submarine. He could not outrun it. His only chance was to strike its weak points with lethal force before it closed in. The Bone Shark Lord rose slowly from the depths of the rift, its blood-red eyes locking onto Suhai's submarine. All 12 spines stood fully extended, spreading into a fan-shaped killing array along its back. Unlike ordinary bone sharks, it did not charge immediately. It hovered at the center of the rift, swaying its tail slowly, seemingly assessing whether the metal hull contained prey worth expending effort to hunt. Suhai assessed it in turn. The Bone Shark Lord's silhouette was precisely outlined on the tactical sonar. Its gill region glowed bright red, marking the primary weak point. Yellow dashed lines traced the armor gaps revealed once its spines unfolded, the secondary vulnerability. Tiny green lights flickered where its eyes sat, the third weak point, yet an extremely difficult target to hit. His plan was straightforward. First, deploy sonar decoys. He possessed 2 decoy rounds, to be launched port and starboard simultaneously, simulating the sonar signatures of 2 separate submarines. Intelligent as it was, the Bone Shark Lord was still a shark and would be misled. Second, while it pursued the decoys, dive the submarine to the rift floor and approach from directly beneath. Both the gills and armor gaps could only be reliably targeted by ordnance ascending from below. Third, launch all 4 anti-submarine rockets at once. 2 locked onto the gills, 2 aimed at the armor gaps. Then execute an immediate full-power withdrawal to avoid counterattack. 2 major risks existed: the Bone Shark Lord ignoring the decoys, or the armor-piercing rounds failing to deliver a fatal blow. But Suhai was willing to take the gamble. He pressed the firing switch for the sonar decoys. 2 decoys ejected from the side launch tubes, 1 drifting left, 1 right. Upon submerging, they immediately began broadcasting the complete acoustic signature of an Orca-class attack submarine, matching propeller rotation speed, engine frequency, and hull echo perfectly. The massive head of the Bone Shark Lord tilted slightly. Its blood-red left eye tracked the left decoy, while the right fixed upon the decoy to starboard. Its body hesitated for less than a second, before taking an action Suhai had not anticipated. It pursued neither decoy. It charged straight towards Suhai's submarine. What did 80 knots feel like underwater? On the tactical sonar, the Bone Shark Lord's signature swelled as if teleporting. Suhai's pupils constricted violently. He jammed the control lever all the way forward, sending the submarine diving downward at its maximum speed of 65 knots. It was not fast enough. The Bone Shark Lord closed to within 200 meters in 3 seconds. Through the viewport, Suhai watched the pair of blood-red eyes rush out of the darkness, its 12 spines standing rigid along its back, their tips glinting coldly. He spun the rudder hard to starboard, forcing the submarine into an extreme turn beside the rift wall. The Bone Shark Lord's charge barely grazed the stern. Its colossal body slammed into the rock face, shaking the entire rift. Rock fragments and glowing kelp showered down against the submarine's hull, yet the hull integrity held unbroken, bolstered by its permanent durability trait. The Bone Shark Lord pulled free from the rock wall, shook its head, and refocused its blood-red gaze on Su-hai. This time it did not sprint. It unfurled its array of dorsal spines. 12 3-meter spines launched all at once. 12 anti-submarine missiles firing in unison. The spines carved white cavitation trails through the water, traveling faster than torpedoes and covering every possible evasion vector Su-hai could take. Su-hai reacted quicker than the spines. It was not conscious thought, but pure instinct. The shark heart awakened within him. In that instant, he sensed the subtlest shifts in the water currents, able to trace the trajectory of every single spine with perfect clarity. Dodge left, veer right, dive, emergency stop. His hands blurred across the control lever. The submarine pulled off a string of seemingly impossible maneuvers amid the spine barrage. 7 spines skimmed the hull, 2 passed between the bow and stern, and 3 slammed into the rock wall, blasting massive craters upon impact. He evaded every strike. The Bone Shark Lord appeared stunned. Its blood-red eyes widened further, likely having never witnessed a submarine maneuver with the agility of a fish. Still, its predatory instinct swiftly returned, and it began coiling energy for a second spine volley. Su-hai denied it the chance. While evading the barrage, he had maneuvered the submarine directly underneath the Bone Shark Lord. Looking upward from below, the creature's gills came clearly into view, 5 pairs of gill slits lining either side of its massive head, protected only by relatively thin bony plating. Fresh spines were growing through gaps in the armor where the previous volley had been fired, exposing narrow bands of soft tissue, registering faint electric field signatures on shark instinct. Now, all 4 anti-submarine rockets launched simultaneously. 2 streaked upward straight for the gills, while the other 2 locked precisely onto the spine roots within the exposed armor gaps. The Bone Shark Lord sensed the incoming threat. It twisted its body sharply, attempting to shield itself with its dorsal carapace. Yet it hovered horizontally in the water. Its armor covered its back and flanks, and the rockets ascended vertically from directly beneath. 2 armor-piercing warheads detonated against the gills. The explosions tore through the thin bony plating, shredding the gill slits. Dark crimson blood billowed out like ink into the seawater. The Bone Shark Lord let out a roar inaudible to Su-hai, sending vibrations rippling through the entire water column. The other 2 rockets struck the spine roots within the armor gaps at the same moment. Armor-piercing tips cut through soft tissue and burrowed deep inside the Bone Shark Lord's body, detonating within its vital organs. The Bone Shark Lord's body went rigid. Its tail thrashed wildly through the seawater, the bony tail club slamming repeatedly against the rift walls and carving new craters into the rock. 12 newly forming spines snapped off at the base and drifted lifelessly through the water. Its blood-red eyes flickered erratically, dimming and brightening again. But it was still alive. It summoned its final strength to twist its torso, opening its maw lined with jagged fangs, and lunged to bite down on Su-hai's submarine. Su-hai launched all 6 compact torpedoes straight into its open mouth. Boom, 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 boom. 6 muffled detonations echoed from inside the Bone Shark Lord's jaws. Its lower jaw shattered, half the bone structure splintering, teeth scattering like shrapnel. The massive body convulsed one last time, then lost all tension, sinking slowly and heavily down into the darkness at the bottom of the rift. Abyssal Bone Shark Lord Tier 2 mutated creature eliminated ×1. Su-hai leaned back into the pilot's chair, his chest heaving rapidly. It was not exhaustion, the physical aftermath of surging adrenaline. His hands remained clamped to the control lever, knuckles taut from excessive strain. Those 30 seconds of combat had been far deadlier than wiping out 300 ordinary bone sharks earlier. Yet he had prevailed. He accessed Hunt Intel and opened the loot panel. Loot summary. Abyssal Bone Shark Lord Evolution Shards. 247 gold coins. 1350 Abyssal Bone Shark Lord Hide ×1 Abyssal Bone Shark Lord Vertebra ×1 Bone Shark Lord Spine ×9 Submarine Tier 2 Evolution Blueprint ×1. Su-hai stared at the loot list, the corners of his mouth slowly lifting upward. He immediately exited the submarine, swimming down personally to collect all loot orbs dropped by the Bone Shark Lord. He also swept up any remaining orbs left by the ordinary bone sharks scattered throughout the rift before returning to the vessel, sealing the hatch, and settling back into the pilot's seat. He retrieved the Tier 2 Evolution Blueprint and unfurled it on the interface. Submarine Tier 2 Evolution Blueprint Grade, Tier 2. Evolution Requirements: Evolution Shards, 500, Meteorite Iron, 100 units, Mithril, 100 units, Adamantite, 100 units, Premium Rubber, 100 units, Tier 2 Evolution Energy Core, 1. Suhai read the material list on the blueprint twice from start to finish, then began searching the trade channel. No one was selling any of these supplies. He leaned back in the pilot's chair and pondered. Just as he was planning to seek new resources after the resource intelligence refreshed tomorrow, an alert blared from his private communication channel. It was Xiaomei, but her message lacked the casual tone of her previous offers of ammunition. She sent a voice clip. Suhai tapped to play it, hearing a trembling voice kept to a hushed whisper. "Boss, are you there? I've been targeted. 3 refitted military submarines are chasing me. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. Please, can you come rescue me?" She paused. Faint rumbles of explosions and the shrill screech of twisting metal echoed in the background. "I've got ammunition, plenty of it. All of it will be yours if you come get me. I'm begging you." A set of coordinates popped up right after the message. Suhai opened the map and glanced at the location. It lay roughly 17 kilometers from his current position, within the 30-kilometer coverage of his hunting intelligence. He sent a 2-word reply. "Coordinates received. Transfer your ammunition first so I can check the quantity." Xiaomei did not hesitate. A trade request arrived within seconds. Instead of haggling or sending partial shipments, she listed every last round of ammunition she owned on the trade panel all at once. Suhai's eyes widened slightly when he opened the trade list. Heavy torpedoes, 60, High-Mao 3 anti-ship missiles, 40, depth charge bombs, 30, armor-piercing anti-submarine rockets, 24, compact torpedoes, 50, sonar decoy rounds, 20, underwater assault rifles, 10, with 5,000 matching rounds of ammunition. The note field on the trade panel held only a single line. No price was listed. The other party had already confirmed, waiting solely for his approval. It was an unconditional gift. Xiaomei had staked everything she possessed on the gamble that he would come. Suhai tapped confirm. Ammunition flooded into his weapons panel. Rows of indicator lights on the ammunition racks lit up green. His total ammunition stockpile surpassed 250 rounds. This was the best resourced he had been since venturing into the deep sea. He cranked his tactical sonar to maximum range and unfolded the holographic map from hunting intelligence. The coordinates Xiaomei sent sat roughly northeast, 17 kilometers away. Hunting intelligence clearly marked all creature signatures and terrain features across the zone. His gaze swept over the waters, then halted on one marker. Near that area, hunting intelligence flagged 2 groups of mutated creatures. Each swarm contained a Tier 2 mutated shark, sized comparably to the Bone Shark King. The shark packs were modest, numbering 20 to 30 individuals apiece. Suhai's gaze turned cold. He pushed power output to maximum. The nuclear reactor of his Orca-class attack submarine rumbled deeply. Its speed surged from stationary to 60 knots in 3 seconds. The bow cut through seawater as it charged full speed towards Xiaomei's coordinates. 17 kilometers at 60 knots would take less than 10 minutes. Suhai slowed early, concealing the submarine in the shadow along the edge of a dense kelp forest. The battle unfolding ahead became crystal clear on his tactical sonar. 3 refitted military submarines marked with a wolf's head emblem formed a triangular formation surrounding a medium research submarine. The research vessel's hull bore several blast indentations. Half the protective cover on its rear propeller had been torn away, drastically limiting its maneuverability. The 3 Wolf Alliance submarines toyed with their prey. Instead of sinking her instantly with torpedoes, they alternated firing compact torpedoes to batter her hull. They forced evasive turns while blocking every escape route. One porthole window on the research sub had shattered, and seawater steadily seeped inside. Hunting intelligence pulled up data on the 3 enemy vessels. Vehicle: 3 times refitted military submarine, Tier 1. Threat level: Tier 2. Weaknesses: outdated sonar systems, detection range limited to 300 meters, easily disrupted by decoys. Externally mounted torpedo tubes exposed on the hull and vulnerable to direct destruction. Thin side hull armor, only 150 durability, breached by 2 hits from heavy torpedoes. Armament: each vessel equipped with 1 quadruple torpedo tube mount, standard torpedoes, estimated remaining stock of 4 to 6 torpedoes per submarine. After reviewing the information, Suhai formulated his plan. He sent a message to Xiaomei over the private channel. "Do exactly as I say. Dive at full power in 10 seconds. to a depth no less than 1,500 meters. Do not stop, and do not look back, no matter what you hear. Hold position once you reach that depth, and wait for me. Suhai closed the chat window and refocused on the 2 shark swarm markers on his hunting map. The first swarm lay roughly 1 kilometer northwest of the Wolf Alliance formation, 28 abyss-bone sharks, including 1 Tier 2 elite specimen. The second swarm sat 800 meters east-southeast, 22 abyss-bone sharks with another Tier 2 elite. Hunting intelligence highlighted data for both Tier 2 sharks, speed, hull durability, and weaknesses matching the Bone Shark King he had defeated in the rift. The only difference was their size. At roughly 9 meters long, they were noticeably smaller than the Bone Shark King, yet genuine Tier 2 mutated predators all the same. Suhai pressed the torpedo launch button. He did not target the Wolf Alliance submarines. 2 heavy torpedoes streaked toward each shark swarm respectively. The warheads locked onto no specific targets. They cruised slowly toward the center of each pack and detonated automatically upon arrival. Boom, boom. 2 muffled blasts rippled outward through the seawater. The explosions lacked the force to kill any bone shark, but the shockwaves and noise were more than enough. Both swarms were startled simultaneously and moved away from the blast sources, directly toward the 3 Wolf Alliance submarines. Suhai launched 2 more sonar decoy rounds from his flank. The decoys traced a semicircle behind the enemy formation, simulating the acoustic signature of multiple large incoming submarines. Spooked by the explosions and drawn to the false acoustic signals, both shark swarms accelerated toward the Wolf Alliance vessels. The 3 enemy submarines finally sensed danger. They attempted to spread out, with one trying to turn away, but it was already too late. The first wave of sharks charged into combat from the northwest. 28 enraged abyss-bone sharks driven into a frenzy by the detonation. The first large metallic objects they spotted were the Wolf Alliance submarines. The leading Tier 2 bone shark struck first. Its 9-meter body surged forward at 80 knots, slamming into the nearest refitted submarine. Spines lining its back snapped fully outward on impact. Dozens of 3-meter bony spikes pierced the vessel's side armor in a single blow. The 150 durability hull offered no more resistance than paper against a Tier 2 bone shark. The submarine was impaled. Its hull tilted violently as seawater flooded the ruptured compartment. Crew members screamed as emergency escape pods ejected, only for the pods to be intercepted and crushed by several bone sharks moments after launching. The remaining 2 enemy submarines frantically fired torpedoes. Their outdated sonar suffered terrible targeting accuracy. Torpedoes veered wildly through the water. Most glanced harmlessly off the shark's bony carapaces, sparking faintly. A stray hit or 2 struck gill slits and killed a handful of ordinary bone sharks, yet failed to halt the onslaught. The second shark swarm rushed in from the east-southeast. The 2 Tier 2 bone sharks coordinated their assault on the next enemy submarine. One shredded the rear propulsion system with its spines, while the other smashed the portholes with its massive tail. Suhai watched as the signals for all 3 enemy submarines vanished one after another on his sonar screen, his expression impassive, as if observing footage irrelevant to himself. Meanwhile, Xiaomei poured full power into her propellers. The research submarine dove vertically at maximum speed. It passed through a murky sediment cloud to settle onto the abyssal plain 1,500 meters below sea level. While the shark swarm tore apart the wreckage of the Wolf Alliance vessels, Suhai glided silently out from the edge of the kelp forest. Silent cruise mode rendered his submarine nearly undetectable at low speed. The sharks paid him no mind. He circled around the battlefield and located Xiaomei's research submarine at 1,500 meters depth. "Stay close behind me," Suhai messaged over the squad channel. "Keep your lights off. Maintain radio silence." Xiaomei complied. The 2 submarines navigated side by side through total darkness, crossing the abyssal plain and winding around reef clusters. They halted beneath a remote underwater cliff. On sonar, the shark swarm signatures were now more than 10 kilometers away. Suhai held position and signaled Xiaomei to stop as well. Over private comms, Xiaomei's voice still shook, though far less frantically than before. "Boss, thank you. Truly, I thought I was going to die out there. Our transaction is complete. Farewell." Suhai replied coldly, preparing to depart without delay. Xiaomei grew anxious at once and spoke quickly. "Boss, the hull durability of my research sub is down to only 12 points. The propeller guard is destroyed, and there are cracks in the propeller blades. The hull could collapse at any moment. I cannot remain on this vessel. Can I board your submarine?" Suhai answered without hesitation, his tone unyielding. "No." Xiaomei fell silent for a moment, but refused to give up. "Boss, Taking me aboard brings many advantages. First, I know the location of an armory, not the supply ship that supplied those earlier rounds, a far larger one. I only managed to retrieve a fraction of its stock last time. Massive ammunition reserves remain, and I can lead you there. Second, I am formally trained in submarine operation. My university major was ocean engineering, and I hold a civilian submarine pilot license. I am familiar with both research and military submarine control systems. I have also awakened the submarine pilot talent. Operating a military-grade submarine alone must be exhausting for you. I can share piloting duties. You handle combat, and I can steer during cruising. Third, her voice paused, growing solemn. I am willing to sign a subordinate agreement. The subordinate must follow all orders from the leading party. If you grant me passage, everything I own belongs to you. Suhai blinked. The subordinate agreement. He had glimpsed the term in the game rules earlier, but never read the details. He opened his system panel and searched for the keyword agreement. A full rule description popped up. Vessel Crew Agreement System. When a player allows another player to board their submarine, one of the three following agreements must be signed. 1. Equal agreement. Both parties hold equal standing, share resources, and participate in joint decision-making. Either party may terminate the agreement and disembark at any time. Subordinate agreement. The leading party holds full command authority and the power to allocate resources. The subordinate must obey all orders issued by the leading party. Termination requires consent from the leading party. Slave agreement. The leading party gains absolute control over the subordinate, including property, movement, and even life and death. The slave cannot terminate the agreement independently. Strict in-game regulations govern this contract. Signatures require voluntary consent from both sides. Note: once signed, agreements are bound by system rules. Violations will result in system penalties. Choose carefully. Suhai tapped his fingers against the armrest as he processed the terms. Xiao Mei's offer was genuine, a subordinate agreement, with her promising full obedience in exchange for passage. Furthermore, her two offers held tangible value. The armory meant access to more ammunition, and her piloting skills would lift the burden of solo operation. The Orca-class attack submarine was designed for a 4-person crew. Managing it alone had grown increasingly taxing. During combat, juggling steering, weapons systems, sonar, and decoys left his fingers trembling after every engagement. With a trained operator to share piloting duties, his combat efficiency would at least double. After brief consideration, he sent 3 words over the private channel. Come aboard. Suppressed excitement filled Xiao Mei's voice. Thank you, boss. I'm on my way immediately. The airlock hatch opened. Xiao Mei swam out of her submarine carrying a small waterproof backpack, clad in a worn wetsuit. Her diving mask bore several cracks, and her headlamp flickered erratically. She looked thoroughly worn down. When Xiao Mei reached the Orca-class attack submarine, the boarding hatch opened to receive her. She climbed inside, removed her cracked mask. Damp hair clung to her face as she stood on the floor of the cockpit, slowly turning to take in her surroundings. Her eyes widened to the size of saucers. The cockpit of the Orca-class attack submarine stretched out before her, a spacious cabin lined with instrument panels on 3 walls, a massive holographic tactical display, leather pilot and co-pilot chairs, a built-in electric kitchen, and a temperature regulator holding a steady 24 degrees Celsius. A faint spicy aroma, left over from hot pot broth, lingered in the circulated air. This, Xiao Mei swallowed hard, sweeping her gaze repeatedly across the cabin. This is your submarine? You operate this all by yourself? My name is Suhai. What should I call you? Zhao Tianmei. Suhai walked past her, hanging the wetsuit on a hook before settling into the pilot's seat. He pulled up the weapons panel and reviewed his ammunition inventory. Zhao Tianmei remained stunned. Her gaze drifted from the tactical display to the pot of unfinished hot pot broth on the kitchen counter, then toward the half-open storage compartment door. Neatly stacked inside were instant noodles, canned food, self-heating rice, cola, Leogama chili sauce, and several unopened bottles of red wine. She glanced down at her own waterproof backpack. It held nothing more than a few packs of compressed biscuits and 2 spare oxygen canisters. Boss, Zhao Tianmei spoke in a dazed tone. This hardly feels like end-of-the-world survival. It's like you're on an ocean vacation. Suhai did not reply. He pulled the sonar feed onto the main display and used the remaining duration of hunting intelligence to scan the surrounding waters. He asked Zhao Tianmei to pull up the coordinates for the armory. It lay roughly 25 kilometers northeast, within the ruins of a sunken military base. The armory is 25 kilometers away. We will arrive in approximately 40 minutes at cruising speed. Suhai stood and gestured toward the co-pilot seat. Take a seat and familiarize yourself with the control interface first. Zhao Tianmei hesitated, glancing down at herself. Her hair hung matted and damp against her skin, and her wetsuit was coated in sediment and seaweed debris. She was covered in grime. Her cheeks flushed. Could I wash up first? I don't want to dirty your spotless cockpit looking like this. Her voice softened toward a murmur. She twisted the strap of her backpack nervously between her fingers. Suhai glanced at her. She was indeed in a messy state, hair clumped in wet strands, with a dark smudge streaked across one cheek from an unknown scrape. He nodded. The shower is at the far end of the corridor on the left. Hot water is available. Zhao Tianmei froze for a second, surprised to find there was even a shower. She clutched her backpack and hurried down the corridor with hurried, unsteady footsteps, like a drenched cat finally finding a dry shelter. Suhai paid her no further mind. He returned to the pilot's seat and continued studying creature distribution around the armory on the hunting map. His sonar reached 3 kilometers, and combined with the 30-kilometer coverage of hunting intelligence, he had a complete view of terrain and threats surrounding the military base. The ruined base rested on an underwater plateau, surrounded by open plains with unobstructed visibility, but that also meant zero cover. The main armory structure was a semi-submerged concrete bunker. Half its entrance was blocked by collapsed rubble, leaving only a ruptured opening overhead for entry. 3 notable signatures marked the surrounding waters. First, a school of small mutated fish patrolling east of the base. Tier 1 threat, roughly 40 specimens, negligible danger. Second, 2 ordinary Tier 1 abyss bone sharks lingering 1 kilometer north of the base, posing little risk. Third, Suhai's gaze lingered on this marker. Hunting intelligence flagged a Tier 2 mutated creature signature 2 kilometers southwest of the base. The information panel popped open. Mutated creature, 3 times abyss bone shark king Tier 2. Note, the 3 bone shark kings maintain loosely overlapping territories but operate independently. Disturbing one will not summon the others instantly. However, if combat lasts longer than 5 minutes, the scent of blood will draw the remaining 2 to the fight. 3 Tier 2 sharks. The 3 bone shark kings claimed the military base as their territory and would attack any moving vessel that drew near. Yet Suhai now held abundant ammunition. Over 250 assorted ordnance, including 24 armor-piercing anti-submarine rockets, the most effective weapon against bone shark kings. He began mapping out his assault route as the sound of running water ceased at the end of the corridor. Moments later, footsteps echoed down the passage. Suhai did not turn away, his gaze fixed on the sonar screen. Footsteps halted behind him, followed by silence. Suhai swiveled around. He froze on the spot. Zhao Tianmei stood in the entryway of the cockpit, clad only in an oversized military shirt she had retrieved from her waterproof backpack as a spare change of clothes. The hem of the shirt fell midway down her thighs. The loose collar gaped slightly, revealing a stretch of collarbone. Sleeves were rolled up to her elbows, exposing fair forearms dotted with damp water droplets on her wrists. Her hair was half-dried, falling softly over her shoulders, carrying the faint scent of shampoo. The dark smudge on her face had been washed away, unveiling sharp, exquisite features, high cheekbones, deep eye sockets, a straight nose, and full lips pressed tight with unease. In one hand she clutched her soiled clothes, fingers twisting nervously at the fabric. I don't have many spare clothes, she murmured, eyes darting, unable to meet Suhai's stare. This shirt is all I have that's clean. My trousers got soaked and dirty. I washed them, but they haven't dried yet. Suhai studied her for several seconds. Color rose across Zhao Tianmei's cheeks, spreading to her earlobes, and then down her neck. She shifted awkwardly, bare-legged, wearing only lightweight submarine slippers. She tugged at the shirt hem self-consciously. She spoke barely above a whisper, hesitating to finish her sentence. Suhai read the uncertainty in her expression and tone. After a short silence, he stood and walked toward the galley area. You must be hungry. He opened the refrigerator and pulled out leftover crab legs, fish fillets, and canned luncheon meat, then fetched a new packet of hot pot base stock from storage. There's still some broth left. I can add extra water if needed. We don't have much produce, but there's enough for 2. He switched on the induction cooker. The hot pot broth came back to a rolling boil, spicy red oil swirling as rich mala aroma filled the cockpit. He rinsed some lettuce, sliced more fish fillets, arranged the luncheon meat on a plate, and mixed a fresh dipping sauce, setting it on the small console before the co-pilot seat. Dig in. Suhai gestured toward the hot pot. Oh, right. Zhao Tianmei snapped out of her daze, cheeks flushed, and hurried to sit down. She picked up her first chopstickful of luncheon meat, dipped it briefly in the boiling broth, coated it with sauce, and took a bite. Her body stiffened as if jolted by electricity. "It's hot," she mumbled with her mouth full. Obviously, hot pot is meant to be served hot. Suhai tossed more fish fillets into the pot. "No, what I mean is," she swallowed quickly and grabbed another portion of fish. "Ever since I entered this game, every meal has been cold compressed biscuits. The other day, I ate canned luncheon meat straight from the tin without heating, and I thought that was a luxury. This is real hot pot with dipping sauce, with spicy chili oil." She grabbed crab legs and stuffed them into her mouth, her cheeks puffing out like a squirrel's. She kept reaching for more fish, beef, and vermicelli. Her chopsticks moved so fast they blurred. Her bowl of dipping sauce, once full, was emptied in barely 2 minutes. Suhai turned the heat down on the hot pot and activated tactical sonar, projecting a holographic map of the ruined military base onto the main display. As he laid out their battle plan, "The armory is here, the core zone of the base ruins, a semi-underground concrete bunker. The main entrance is blocked by rubble, so we can only enter through the opening overhead. 3 threats lie nearby. A school of Tier 1 mutated fish to the east can be ignored. 2 ordinary bone sharks to the north pose little danger. The real hazard is these 2 kilometers southwest, 3 Tier 2 bone shark lords." Zhao Tianmei paused with her chopsticks upon hearing the name Bone Shark Lord. "That's where they ambushed me last time." She set down her chopsticks, her tone turning serious. "The supply vessel ammunition depot has 3 subdivisions. I only cleared the smallest one. The other 2 hold torpedoes and missiles deep inside the armory. The 3 Bone Shark Lords have claimed the territory. They spotted me the moment I drew near, and I barely escaped alive. This is no research vessel. We're aboard a military submarine." Suhai pulled up the weapons panel on the main screen. Zhao Tianmei stared at the ammunition tally, showing more than 250 rounds, stunned once again. Suhai continued outlining the operation. "The 3 lords share territory loosely. Alerting one won't immediately summon the others. But blood from prolonged combat, any fight lasting longer than 5 minutes, will draw the rest. We need to eliminate them within that window, lure and kill one, then the second, and finally the third. Their weak points are their gills and gaps in their armor plating when they extend their spines. Armor-piercing anti-submarine rockets can strike those vulnerable zones from below. I have 24 armor-piercing rockets, more than enough for all 3. Zhao Tianmei listened intently, her eyes growing brighter by the second. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "Handle navigation. During combat, you control heading, depth, and submarine attitude. I will manage weapons systems." "Understood. Take your station. We will reach target waters in 15 minutes. Zhao Tianmei stood, popped the last slice of fish from her bowl into her mouth, and settled into the co-pilot's seat. Her hands rested on the control panel as her fingers swept across the touchscreen, familiarizing herself with navigation and piloting interfaces. Her movements were fluid and professional, a stark contrast to Suhai's self-taught, unrefined techniques. Suhai glanced at her, finished the last of his cola, and pushed power output to maximum. The nuclear reactor of the Orca-class attacked submarine rumbled deeply, its bow cut through dark blue seawater, surging full speed toward the sunken military base. Suhai noted her disciplined piloting habits, scanning depth and speed gauges every 30 seconds, checking sonar contacts each minute, verifying course deviation every 2 minutes. These were ingrained reflexes forged through formal training, impossible for someone like him. Surviving by instinct and system rewards to match. On the tactical sonar display, the outline of the ruined military base sharpened. It was a submerged seafloor facility spanning roughly 3 to 4 square kilometers, surrounded by open abyssal plains. Most base buildings had collapsed, eroded into jagged debris blanketed by sediment and seaweed. Yet the core concrete bunker remained intact, a rectangular semi-submerged structure, roughly 50 meters on each side. Only one level jutted above the seabed. Most of its mass lay buried beneath silt. Sonar penetration scans partially revealed internal layouts. 3 large warehouses sat side by side deep within the bunker, each fitted with independent blast doors. The outermost warehouse stood empty, the one Zhao Tianmei had cleared previously. The other 2 remained sealed with intact blast doors, small mutated fish circling outside. Southwest of the bunker, 3 massive red contacts drifted slowly. Abyssal bone shark lords, 3 in total. Hunt intelligence projected their live data directly into Suhai's mind. Abyssal bone shark lord tier 2 mutant creature times 3. Status, patrolling. Lord 1 roams slowly 1.8 kilometers due west of the base. Lord 2 rests 2.1 kilometers south-southwest. Lord 3 hunts small mutated fish 1.6 kilometers west-southwest. Body length. Lord 1 to 11 meters. Lord 2 to 9.5 meters. Lord 3 to 10.2 meters. Range, sector southwest of the base. Each holds an 800-meter radius territory, with a 200-meter overlapping zone. Vigilance, low. None have detected anomalies. Suhai halted the submarine 3 kilometers from the base, holding position behind a cluster of low reefs. He opened the weapons panel and assigned firepower precisely. Target Lord 3 first, closest to the base, distracted while hunting. Suhai traced an attack path on the tactical display. I will approach directly beneath it. 4 armor-piercing anti-submarine rockets, 2 aimed at the gills, 2 at armor gaps. We must kill it on the first strike, denying it the chance to send alerts. What comes next? Zhao Tianmei asked. Lord 2 is resting, lowest vigilance and slowest to react. As soon as Lord 3 falls, turn to engage Lord 2 with identical tactics. Lord 1 last. It is the largest and most alert. It will likely detect trouble as soon as the second Lord is attacked. We will lose the element of surprise and face open combat. Zhao Tianmei studied the plotted assault routes, falling silent for a moment before speaking. If we fight Lord 1 head-on, it will fire its spine barrage, then pull back to recharge. I have observed their behavior patterns. After unleashing spines, they enter a roughly 10-second vulnerability window while new spines grow through their armor. Those 10 seconds are their weakest moment. Suhai shot her a look. How do you know that? When it chased me, it fired 1 spine volley, then paused to regenerate. I tracked the cycle on sonar, around 10 seconds. I was too busy fleeing to counterattack back then, Zhao Tianmei explained. You will get your chance this time. Suhai switched weapon locking mode to precision targeting, designating gill zones and armor fissures for anti-submarine rockets allocated to each Lord. During Lord 1's 10-second recovery window, that will be your task. Keep the submarine directly underneath it. Attack angles cannot shift. Shots must strike the gills from below. Misaligned rockets will bounce off its bone plating. Understood. Zhao Tianmei rested her fingers lightly on the control stick. Ready. I am set. Suhai set power output to 30%. The submarine glided out from behind the reefs under silent cruising mode. Noise suppression reduced propeller turbulence to a minimum, letting the vessel slip through the dark depths like a ghost. Lord 3's sonar contact drew nearer. 1 kilometer, 800 meters, 600 meters. Lord 3 was feeding. Live feeds from Hun intelligence showed it opening its massive jaws, swallowing schools of lanternfish along with seawater, before expelling excess water through its gill slits. Predators hunting food maintain low vigilance. Its lateral line systems focused entirely on struggling prey, slow to respond to distant low-frequency noise. Suhai brought the submarine 80 meters beneath Lord 3, tilting the bow upward as hatches on the 6-tube torpedo array slid open. He selected 4 anti-submarine rockets with armor-piercing warheads, powerful enough to tear internal organs apart on impact. Targets locked, Suhai said flatly. Fire. For rockets launched simultaneously, trailing thin white wakes as they raced toward Lord 3 at nearly 70 knots. Lord 3 sensed abnormal water flow at the final instant. Its colossal body twisted sharply, attempting to roll and shield itself with dorsal bone plating. But its feeding posture left its underbelly exposed, gills unprotected. 2 rockets slammed straight into its left gill slits. Armor-piercing warheads tore through thin bone shielding, burrowing deep into soft tissue before detonating. Shockwaves shredded all 5 pairs of gills. Dark red blood surged outward like an underwater fountain. The other 2 rockets struck gaps between extended spine armor. With its dorsal spines half unfurled to hunt, fissures between plates widened. Rockets penetrated and exploded close to its spinal column. Lord 3's body stiffened violently before thrashing wildly. Its tail hammered the seabed, churning clouds of silt. It emitted no roar. Shattered gills robbed it of the ability to draw breath. Abyssal bone shark Lord 3 eliminated ×1. First target down. Without pause, Suhai turned the submarine toward Lord 2's coordinates. Lord 2 is resting. We have a 3-minute window. Maintain depth, approach from underneath. Receive. Zhao Tianmei adjusted the control stick. The Orca-class submarine executed a fluid turn. Bow aligned on Lord 2's position at a steady depth of 14